Hey everybody, it's Clarissa, also known as the Bunny Simmer. I know, long time no see. Life has definitely been a little bit hectic lately, but I was feeling inspired, and so today we are doing a speed build here in the world of San Myshuno, which came part of the City Living pack. And this is one of the Culpeper House apartments. This is 19 Culpeper House, which is actually one of my all-time favorite apartments that we have in the game, which is definitely a controversial opinion. I know that is because this is one of the apartments that we have in the game that has set lot traits, and the one in this one is pretty much everything breaks all the time. Absolutely all the time. The pipes here in this utility closet are always leaking. There are mice and things, and a lot of people kind of get frustrated by that, but I love it for my gameplay. I think it is super realistic. Like, the building soup doesn't want anything to do with you and isn't going to be helpful, and I don't know, I kind of love that realism and that chaos in my game. But I'm also the type of person who is one of the few fans of Bust the Dust, and I love laundry, so maybe I am just a chaos gremlin, who knows. But today we are building an apartment that is really inspired by the floor tiles you see here in the utility room and in this bathroom. I absolutely love these tiles. They are from the For Rent pack, and I often use the black and white ones. I've used them in a lot of builds lately in my own gameplay, but I was feeling inspired by these blue ones, and that was kind of my jumping off point for this entire apartment, which is a little crazy, but I just think they are so cute and work with so many of our packs. I think they look great with the Dream Home Decorator counters, which I use in this build. I also think that they would look really great for a more traditional build using the blue and like cream countertop set that we got from Parenthood. And so I just think that they're a really versatile tile that is like both modern but can also be made to look like old and lived in. And so that I think they were a great addition to the game. And beyond that, I wasn't really sure who I wanted this apartment to be for or how many Sims. Often this apartment is actually a 2-bedroom, but I played around with a floor plan and was able to fit 3, one of which I turned into an office, but you could have several Sims living here using bunk beds or double beds and things like that. But I imagined for my kind of idea, once I came up with a story, is that this is actually a 3-bedroom apartment that I have for 2 Sims. I imagine that the apartment is owned by a grandma who probably purchased it a long time ago, loved that stabilized rent and hasn't left, and she just deals with the charm of things breaking every so often. And so I imagine she has a really high handiness skill and that she's just used to taking control of things as she needs to, and she doesn't call the soup anymore. She just deals with it on her own. And as I decorated the living room, I decided that she was an author. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we get to the living room and office. But as you can see here, I'm decorating the kitchen using the same floor tiles and this really baby blue counter that we got from Dream Home Decorator. And I kind of scooched the curtains to the side. You may have seen that. And that's because there are actually mice holes under this window and the window that is in the living room. And I wanted to make sure that they weren't in the way of your gameplay. When we get into the screenshots, you'll see that I moved a couple things around just to make sure that they were more playable for you if you download this from the gallery. And now we are kind of moving into the living room. And this is when I decided that the grandmother was an author. I wanted to make sure there was a lot of book clutter and just kind of fill the space. And so these are like her aesthetic books that kind of match the decor that she has in the house. And I was adding a bit of clutter, and I noticed, even though I had extensions here at the top of the shelf, that things wanted to keep slotting into the top, which was kind of annoying, but we moved them around and we were able to get some clutter on the shelves that I thought were cute. And then I tried to build this little custom table for our TV unit. And the more I looked at it, the more I realized that it looks exactly like the custom content created little side table or TV table that we got as a base game update ages ago. And so I ended up putting that in instead, because that way if you want to put things on the table, you can. Sometimes when you use cabinets on a table like that, Sims will put dirty plates on it and then you can't see them, which I know know can get a little annoying for gameplay. So I decided to put an actual table here instead. And then I was going to put a video game console. Couldn't find it. Took me for ages. And then I realized it was blocking the table, so I decided not to. But that is a fun item that does come with the City Living pack. And so I am continuing this like blue and cream aesthetic that we have going on, trying to pick what chair I wanted to use. There is one that matches this curved couch that we got from Growing Together, but I don't like how straight the back is. It looks very uncomfortable in my opinion. So I decided not to use it and use one of these blue ones that matches the rug and the pillows that we have on the couch. And I love the floating little bookshelves. If you guys did not know, I am an avid reader. I read about 100 to 150 books a year, sometimes history because I am a historian, but I do love a good fantasy or romantasy book. Those are my favorite genres. And so it was really fun for me to add like all my dream bookshelves and stuff in this apartment. It might be for a grandma who's an author, but I think I would move in right away. I just love the blue. I love the books. I think it feels cozy and clean all at the same time. So this was a really fun one for me to decorate. Now I'm moving on to the dining room. I was really struggling. I wanted it to kind of be neutral and then do a fun rug, but when I started looking at rugs, it started to compete with the rug that I had in the living room, and I didn't want to do that. And then trying to find the right size rug under dining room tables is definitely a challenge because you want all the chairs to fit, but you don't want it to take up the whole space because I still wanted this really pretty like orangish wood to kind of peek through. So I decided to use these base game chairs that I never use. I forget that they have this lighter wood tone, and then use a more neutral rug under it, which I think came from Strangerville, this brown rug, which I thought was really cute and kind of coordinated with everything we had going on. And I just think this looks really homey. Also a place like the grandmother could like have her editor or maybe be interviewed by a newspaper if she has a bestseller, but very kind of warm and cozy without being too cluttered, very clean. And then I'm just working on a little gallery wall over here. I imagine that poster in the middle maybe have like one of her favorite book quotes. If it was mine, it would obviously be a Jane Austen quote probably. But add some frames so she can add pictures of her family and maybe like the setting that inspired one of her books or something like that here in the living room. And then I move on to the office. And let me tell you, I really struggled with what I wanted to do in here. I have a pretty extensive amount of shelves in the living room, so I didn't want to go too overboard with shelves. And then I looked in my own house and realized that the only room that I don't have books is our bathrooms. So I was like, you know what? It is okay to have more bookshelves. And I really think that they add to the coziness factor here. The office is the room I think that looks the most lived in because this is where I imagine she's taking meetings with editors and she's doing Zoom calls with people, and this is where she also reads when she has some free time. And so I wanted this room to feel the most cozy, the most lived in, and I think I accomplished that by playing with textures on the wall, including some of the gray, but also including some of the paneling that I use right outside the kitchen. And I really think that that helped kind of match that feeling that I was going for. And once I finally land on bookshelves in here, I also include some awards and like this glowing sword that comes from Get Famous, I think. And to me, I feel like that is just some like fandom art that somebody sent based off of one of her like heroines and some of the awards from her books. And if you notice, I popped in some books under the side table, and I have the little book house with the book sitting on top of it. I actually have one of those and they're super useful. And then above the couch, I put what I think are like the book covers of her two most popular books here in her office. That's just a nod to all of the things that she's written and, you know, all of the work she's done to help support her family and making it her own kind of space. I also didn't continue using the blue shelves in here. I imagine this is where she put all the books that don't match her aesthetic in the rest of her house, which is kind of how mine is. My living room has all of my like history books and all the ones that people are like, wow, that's impressive that you've read these. And then every other room in my house has like my substantial fantasy collection. So kind of based off of a little bit of real life. But here you can see I'm trying to pull out the items that I think kind of really show off that she's an award-winning author, some ribbons and that sword that I was talking about. I also put in a violin. I did try to put some skill building items throughout the house for people to use. So there's a couple of music instruments, and the balcony will be dedicated to skill building. Oh, words are hard. But now we're in the master bedroom, and here I wanted it to be a little warmer than we have everywhere in the house. And part of that's because we have this exposed brick in here that I thought worked really well, not only in the kitchen, but in this bedroom. And so all of the furniture in here has these really warm browns and creams that I thought felt really cozy and just kind of a place to relax and get away. And I balanced that with a blue rug. I used the City Living dresser, and let me tell you, I have had City Living since it came out, and I don't think I've ever used it in the swatch that I'm about to use. I didn't realize it had this brown pattern swatch, but I think it really matches this modern luxe bed pretty well. I don't like the dresser that came with this pack. I'm not sure why, but I thought these end tables from Growing Together and the City Living dresser kind of matched really well with these warm tones like metal mixed with some wicker, and just making a really cozy space for our hardworking grandma. But now I'm just adding a couple of clutter items and some artwork. I also include the hamper in here that you need for laundry, a little mirror, and some shoes, and keep it relatively simple. Obviously, I put a couple of books on her bedside table because what reader doesn't have books in their bedroom, but keeping it relatively kind of clean and clutter-free in here, and leaving the office to be kind of the place that grandma leaves a mess around. I also went through after I finished this build and play tested it, and noticed in the office that the sticky notes I put were keeping Sims from using the computer. I don't know if you guys have had this problem, but even when I put things in slots, like the sticky notes weren't all placed, they were actually put on a slot on the desk. My Sim couldn't use the desk. I actually had to tell her to get in the chair and then on the computer, which I know is not ideal for gameplay. So before I posted this to the gallery, I did move a couple items around to make it a little easier for everyone to play. So I hope it works for you all. I do try to play test things before I post them to make sure that they're optimal for players. But out here on the balcony, I believe that this is 100% teenage granddaughter space. I imagine that she moved in with her grandmother kind of like the year between middle school and high school. And her dream is to either be on the football team or to be on the cheerleading team. That's totally up to you which one. And she is spending the summer getting toned. She's getting strong, and she's going to knock these tryouts out of the water. And so I put a lot of fitness equipment out there and really gave her a dedicated space. Maybe she's got some anger issues or something going on, but just a dedicated space to work out and to relax and things like that. And then in her bedroom, I included this mouse habitat. I never use these for my first pet stuff, so I was going outside my comfort zone a little bit, and then I paired a lot of the blue furniture with some peak items from the Pastel Pop Kit, which is also one of my all-time favorite kits. And then I also thought that maybe she dabbled in music, and while we don't have bands, I think the combination between this microphone from high school years, this radio from Moschino, and the Freezer Bunny guitar kind of makes it look like a band setup. But after that, I'm just going to put a little bit of clutter in here, like some clothes and water bottles and stuff, to make it feel like a lived-in teen room that's not as pristine and clutter-free as maybe the rest of the house. And then from there, we are going to go into screenshots. So thank you so much for joining me today in this speed build. Please like and subscribe if you haven't, so you don't miss my next builds. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I will definitely see you in the next one. So have a great day. Bye, guys.